animal species and 500 different corals, it's more than a natural wonder, it's a battlefield. Australia's Reef Warriors, right now on Wild Discovery.
Situated off Australia's northeast coast, the Great Barrier Reef is the only living organism visible from space. It stretches more than 1,000 miles and covers an area nearly the size of Oregon. A green turtle glides above this vast seascape, built entirely by tiny coral polyps that secrete limestone skeletons as they grow. These hard corals come in an infinite variety of shapes and colors, inspiring such names as brain, staghorn, and vase corals. This enormous limestone metropolis is 17 million years in the making, and it's still growing, adding 11 million pounds of new architecture every year. Not all corals build hard structures. Soft corals have flexible skeletons with an unrivaled diversity of shape, color, and form. Hard or soft, corals share characteristics of both animals and plants. Their tissues host algae, so they can produce energy from sunlight, but most also feed by preying on plankton. It is summer, and many of the reef creatures are spawning, discharging huge volumes of egg and sperm into the water. The crown of thorns starfish can release more than 30 million eggs, while giant clams spawn together on only one day each year. The spawning provides a rare bounty of food for the hungry masses, and several species of fish arrive to gorge themselves. Schools of baitfish up to 6 miles long join in the feast. They, in turn, become food for species higher up in the food chain. The feeding frenzy attracts large hunters, like giant trevally and potato cod that can reach a yard long. At the top of the food chain in this region are sharks. From the 6-foot-long white-tip reef shark, the most common shark in the Coral Sea, to the rarer and beautiful leopard shark. And the bottom-dwelling carpet shark. All are reef warriors, with large inward curving teeth. Another bottom-dwelling shark wears its weapon for all to see. The 6-foot-long sawfish has a set of saw-like teeth which extend outside its mouth. With a fencing motion, the sword-like snout is used to slash its prey. Once in range, the lethal weapon moves into action. As the fish become injured and fall to the bottom, the hunter scurries along the sea floor to lap them up. Inside the mouth, the prey is sliced by another set of teeth. But teeth aren't the only weapons used by reef warriors. The mantis shrimp may only be 3 inches long, but he carries a concealed weapon. His front legs shield 2 powerful clubs. Before going out to get a meal, he meticulously cleans his burrow in preparation for the feast ahead. He then keeps a keen lookout for potential prey, using these unique compound eyes. He soon spots a small crab. The mantis shrimp attacks, using his bludgeons to bash the victim. Blow by blow, the crab is beaten until its protective shell is chipped away. This action also stuns the prey long enough to be captured and dragged back to the burrow. One strike from a mantis shrimp can crack thick glass. The mantis shrimp then dines on fresh crab meat. After dinner, it's back to the housework. If the arsenal of the coral reef warriors can include swords and clubs, why not poison arrows? A cone shell forages for a meal, tasting the current with its siphon. It's found a goby. This worm-like radula hides a venomous spear used to kill its prey. The cone shell is an excellent marksman. Once harpooned, the victim is reeled into the proboscis. One strike has enough venom to kill 60 people. The cone shell swallows its arrow along with the meal. This will be regurgitated several hours later. Until then, this warrior is without a weapon, so it pays to hide. Not everyone on the reef can boast warrior status. These garden eels watch the action from the safety of their burrows and make do with simply snatching microbes from the current. For others, there's always force in numbers. Catfish work together to forage for tiny invertebrates in the sand. As the front runners feed, they stir up food for those behind. Each individual takes it in turn to spend time in the middle of the school, where it's safe from predators, and then leapfrog to the front to feed. The catfish school moves across the seafloor like a tumbling ball. At up to 50 feet long and weighing a staggering 2 tons, The whale shark is the world's biggest fish. Despite belonging to the shark family, these giants are not dangerous, for the mouth is only used to scoop up plankton and small crustaceans. To survive, a whale shark must filter the equivalent of 5,000 swimming pools daily.
The ingenuity of the octopus and the harlequin shrimp when Wild Discovery returns after the break.
This harlequin shrimp has found a starfish and enlists assistance to help flip it over to prevent it from escaping. But rather than kill it, the couple nibbles away at the arms. As the starfish regenerates the eaten parts, this tactic provides the shrimps with a living larder that can sustain them for many days. Another intelligent reef warrior goes one better. The reef octopus has spotted a potential meal with its keen eyesight. The crab hides in a recently discarded bottle. The octopus weighs the situation. He uses his highly sensitive tentacles to feel the obstacle between him and his meal. He then determines a way in. But can his tentacles reach the prey? The soft-bodied hunter can squeeze his whole body through the small opening, but sometimes it's easier to get in than out. The mastermind takes his prize back to the lair, where it's consumed. Reef creatures living near the surface face predators not only from below, but also above the water. At low tide, tropical birds like this eastern reef egret arrive to search for food among the corals. For the corals themselves, the biggest threat is the summer sun, so they secrete a natural sunscreen which will protect the polyps from drying out. With so many dangers, it pays to have a defensive strategy if you want to survive here. While hunters like the giant trevally are on the lookout for a meal, it's best to remain camouflaged. Those like the frogfish mimic their environment. The pipefish imitates a floating stick, while shrimpfish hold themselves upright to remain concealed against the vegetation. When the biggest warriors are on the prowl, some fish change their appearance. The smaller warriors don't take any chances and retreat to safety. Others simply panic. But when you're face to face with a mouth like this, sometimes it's best to just sit completely still and hope for the best. Camouflage can be used for attack as well as defense. Against the stonefish, victims don't stand a chance. Its strike takes just 1/100th of a second. On the Great Barrier Reef, barracuda hunt in packs. So the smallest fish find safety in numbers. In Australian tropical and subtropical waters, fish schools can vary from millions to a few thousand. Regardless of the scale, the result is awesome. One warrior has a whole repertoire of defensive behaviors. The reef octopus has mistakenly stumbled into the lair of the moray eel. In response to being evicted, the octopus fires a shot of blinding ink and escapes by jet propulsion. But the danger is not over just yet. A carpet shark is on the prowl. The octopus puts on a threat display, spreading itself out to appear larger than it really is. This deters the shark, giving the octopus just enough time to sneak away. It squeezes into a crevice where the pursuer can't reach. The shark will go hungry for now.
How does a clownfish swim among the stinging tentacles of an anemone? Find out when Wild Discovery returns after the break.
The Great Barrier Reef hosts over 1,500 species of fish. Many, like the barramundi cod and the harlequin tuskfish, wear striking colors. For some, such as the black pufferfish and the stars and stripes toadfish, Vivid colors and patterns are a sign to predators that they're poisonous. Nudibranchs have taken this approach to the extreme. They come in every warning color imaginable. Color is not the only deterrent. The flamboyant-looking lionfish advertises the fact that he is venomous by splaying his fan-like fins. His armor consists of 13 poisonous spines concealed among his fins. This little pufferfish is flirting with danger. The lionfish may be well armed against hunters, but what about its own kind? A darker colored intruder has dared enter his territory. The lighter-colored defender decides it's time to act. The invader lunges and attempts to stab his opponent. The warriors jostle as each tries to get into a position to spear the other. The intruder wins. The loser relinquishes his territory and retreats to find a new home. If you don't possess poison, it's a good idea to befriend someone who does. Clownfish are able to live among the stinging tentacles of an anemone because they use a protective mucus shield. Both creatures benefit from the association. The anemone gains a bodyguard, and the clownfish gets a refuge. If a potential predator approaches, the clownfish dives for cover. A wise hunter knows not to follow. In the quest for safety, many strange associations have evolved in the coral reef. There are threesomes. There's the odd couple. And then there's those that share a house. Here, the goby keeps a lookout for predators, while his roommate, a blind shrimp, does the housework. The Great Barrier Reef is actually a collection of over 2,900 individual reefs and 1,500 islands and keys built from old reef materials. These are a haven for tropical seabirds and turtles and are ideal for nesting sites. Masked boobies and reef egrets congregate on the wooded islands to mate and lay their eggs. Nesting materials, something in short supply on the reef, also draws them. The warm summer water triggers a desire to mate in many of the reef animals. The male green turtle climbs on top of the female during mating. This is indeed a rare sight because females only breed about every 6 years. Following mating, the couples separate to return to their solitary lives. This is the time many males are on the lookout for a mate, and the females search for a place to lay their eggs. This male olive sea snake is looking for a partner. By detecting vibrations in the water, he senses a female is nearby. He approaches, but she's not interested. So he tries a little seduction. Sea snakes are very sensitive to touch. The male tenderly rubs his body against hers. He'll do this for many hours until the female succumbs. The couple then writhe together in a copulatory embrace. What took hours of foreplay to achieve is all over in a few seconds. When it comes to mating, the female reef octopus is far more forthright. This one's found a male, but he's already taken, and the rival female doesn't appreciate her interfering. The female intruder wins the battle. Under the prying eyes of another warrior, she begins to excavate her den in preparation for egg laying. The male uses his mating tentacle to place his sperm capsules inside her. Her breathing rate increases as she cracks each capsule to release the sperm. The female then retreats to her den. The male, no longer required, is free to venture off and seek another partner. Some animals of the coral reef engage in a courtship ritual to help select a suitable partner. Among harlequin shrimps, courtship is like a version of flag waving. From a distance, the male signals his desire to mate by waving his front claws, which have evolved to become petal-shaped. The female watches with interest. The conversation continues in a kind of sign language. All the time, the couple edge nearer to each other. The male approaches, believing he's picked up all the right signals. But the female makes it known he is being presumptuous. She literally gives him the flick. But this male is persistent. He tries again, unaware his every move is being watched. Eventually, the male is able to position the female on her side so he can mate with her. He then uses his legs to place several sperm sacs into her genital duct.
Signaling a mate, sometimes a duet, sometimes a fiesta. Wild Discovery continues after the break.
Tropical reef fish have a variety of ways of signaling their desire to mate. In many species, this intention is conveyed through a courtship dance. A male three-spot puller proceeds to lure a female to the intended nest site by performing a wiggle dance known as shimmering. The female accepts the invitation by joining him in the dance. After nearly a day, if courting is successful, the female will lay her eggs and the male will release sperm to fertilize them externally. Beaked leather jackets also perform a dance to signify it's time to spawn. They wiggle their fins and pirouette around each other, all the time synchronizing their movements. The result is a beautiful courtship display. Following courtship, the female will retreat to the sea floor to lay her eggs. But the most spectacular summer spawning display belongs to the corals. For only a few minutes each year, in what amounts to a massive nocturnal orgy, billions of egg and sperm packages simultaneously explode into the water along the whole length of the Great Barrier Reef. Only a fraction of the eggs are fertilized. These rapidly divide into larvae, which are dispersed by the current. Out of billions of new individuals, only a few can expect to survive. The remainder become food for nocturnal hunters, which arrive especially for the occasion. Four weeks after mating, the female green turtle returns to the beach on which she was born to lay her first clutch of eggs for the summer. She digs a hole, into which she lays about 100 eggs. Before departing, she will cover them with sand to protect them from scavengers. The morning light reveals that the masked booby and sooty-turned females have eggs. The brown booby literally stands guard over hers and keeps vigil. she witnesses the exhausted turtle drag herself back to the sea. It's now late summer. Many of the reef creatures have completed mating and have found nests in which to lay their eggs. The clownfish female has laid around 1,000 eggs anchored to a rock ledge by sticky tendrils. Each parent takes turns to aerate the egg mass and guard against predators. A mother damselfish has also attached her egg clutch to a ledge. She tries in vain to protect them. An army of warriors arrive in force and gorge themselves until there are none left. The female will now have to spawn again. The reef octopus takes no chances and keeps her eggs close to her body. She's laid several hundred eggs and will guard them right up until they hatch. The newborn babies are less than an inch long. Only when all the eggs have hatched will the mother leave the young to fend for themselves. Shortly after, she departs and dies. Late summer is also the time many microscopic creatures emerge from their eggs. Reef animals produce so many offspring that on some summer nights, the coral reef becomes a soup of planktonic larvae. The young quickly disperse to avoid predators. Some hide. Some form schools, while others find an unlikely friend for protection. A young anemone is on the move and is yet to find a clownfish bodyguard. A pesky butterfly fish takes advantage and attacks. As the next generation of reef warriors grow older, they'll master many of the skills their parents employed. A smart octopus soon learns that a discarded bottle may conceal a meal. In go the tentacles to ascertain if the contents are edible. Unfortunately, not this time. Summer is drawing to a close. With her parental duties complete, the mother turtle leaves the reef and ventures into the open sea.
In just a moment, turtle hatchlings run the gauntlet to the sea when Wild Discovery returns after the break.
On the tropical island, the bird's eggs have hatched. The brown booby and the sooty tern mothers now have chicks to feed. A young frigate bird cries to be fed. By autumn, all will have to fend for themselves. For the newly hatched turtles, independence comes immediately, but at a price. Upon hatching, the babies are only 2 inches long, the size of a matchbox. They scurry towards the sea, but are an easy target for any waiting predators. Many fall victim before even reaching the water. But this is no refuge either. For here awaits another set of hunters. Sweet lips and spangled emperors take their toll, but a few turtles survive. Some even live to be 100 years old. The newcomer enters the beautiful but fragile world of the Great Barrier Reef. It's a place with an uncertain future. Unlike the world of his ancestors, the reef that will sustain him is under siege from human disturbance. At the current rate of destruction, some experts claim it has just 40 years to live. But for now, the next generation can take their place alongside the other survivors of the summer battlefield. These beautiful animals will journey into the future to hopefully continue the long ancestral line of reef warriors.